Today's live, as I said, is radical responsibility. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about journaling because journaling is quite a big part of Stoicism. And every week what we do is we add to our journal and we make a mental note that if we don't have it with us, we'll bring it with us next time, or we are aiming to check in with it daily. Okay, that's one of the kind of stoic threads running through every live, is a daily check-in, something that keeps us accountable. This week's message is from Celia, and she's asking for advice. She says to me, there are so many things that have happened to me. I can't get them out of my mind. I've been struggling for so long. I wake up and I remember the bad things, and I get in this vicious circle of thoughts. I don't want to get up, let alone do anything with my day, because automatically the first thing I think is last thing I thought last night is the thing I thought a few hours before that, and I'm getting fed up with this vicious circle, this endless cycle of negative thinking. What can I do? So again, today's theme is radical responsibility, and we're talking about training our focus. And we are looking at focusing on solutions rather than the problem itself. But she says there are many things that many reoccurring thoughts she has, and they're getting her down. So we are moving from emotional reactivity to clarity, which is, it's really what Stoicism is all about. It's moving from a reactivity towards a clarity of thinking. As I've said to you guys, especially on Insight Time and so many times before, the power is in the pause. So creating a distance between what's happening and actually how we're reacting to it. So in the case of Celia, as soon as she opens her eyes, she's reacting. First thing she does is react to something, a memory, something that's triggered her, something that she was worrying about the night before. And what we're going to do, which we do every single live session, is we are going to relate this question to guidance from the Stoic Masters, and also use our journal to relate it to our own personal experiences. And of course, we are going to look at some inspiration that we've taken from the literary masters. Why? Because I'm the female Stoic and I relate Stoicism to a woman's plight. Okay, and the Stoic master I'm looking at today is Charlotte Bronte. So let's move on. For the benefit of those on Insight Timer, I can't see my screen now because I've been going for a few minutes, so I'm just going to carry on. So if it's always somebody else's fault, it will be somebody else's responsibility to fix it. What does that tell us? That tells us that if I have recurring thoughts about what has happened to me, what has been done to me, external situations, other people, and I'm saying it's their fault that I feel like this because they just keep doing these things, then I'm handing them the responsibility to fix it. And of course, it's not in their interest to fix it, is it? What interest do they have to fix it? None. So what does that say? Well, obviously, that I have to take responsibility myself. How do I do that? Well, we know the dichotomy of control. We understand that everything within our control is our reaction, okay, our emotional response to something, and our virtues, our morals, our values, right? So we hold those close, we keep those close, and we understand, okay, they have to be protected. I can control my virtues, obviously. I can decide what my standards are. I can also control how I react to other people and what they do. So of course with that comes the understanding that if I wake up in the morning and I'm having, as Celia is having, these recurring thoughts that are so negative she doesn't even want to get out of bed, then it's my responsibility to do something about that. And what do I have to do? I have to gain clarity. How do I gain clarity? Stop reacting to them. Oh no, a lot of negative, bad thoughts. I'll just go back to sleep and take action. And obviously, in order to take action, you have to understand it's happening to you already, because many times it's just the background noise. We don't even register that it's happening. So to actually train our focus to accept, yes, I am thinking that again and again and again and again. And realise, this is a few too many times. I'm going to have to do something about this. I'm going to have to take radical responsibility for this situation, because if I don't, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. It'll be the same. I'm going to go to bed tonight. It will be the same. So let's look at Jane Eyre. We're talking about Jane Eyre today, and then we'll look at the journals after that. Jane Eyre, if she'd left her future in the hands of Mr Rochester, he would not have saved her. Okay. It was in his interest as a character, this is what Bronte set him up as a character, as somebody who is looking out for his own interest and realises, goodness me, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and I know I'm married, but guess what? I'm going to have to make this work, because I'm going to die without this woman. I need this woman in my life. She's challenging me intellectually. She's something different. She's something new, and she's nothing like anything I've ever met before. And I'm willing to take her future into my hands, albeit not aligning with her values, not aligning with her virtues, and willing to risk that in order to get what I want. Okay, so obviously it's not pure malevolence, but there's some kind, there's definitely a step, he's coming to the relationship from a place of self-interest. Now, there's going to be an element of that, but he's willing to sacrifice it all, her standards, morals, values, everything, in order to make this happen. So that would not be saving her, because in Jane Eyre's eyes, she wants to be intellectually aligned with someone who holds the same values she does. And why is this relevant? Because Charlotte Bronte has made a choice. She has made a choice. She's taken radical responsibility to have an unpopular voice in 1847, for goodness sake. So at a time when it really wasn't popular to be writing this sort of stuff, let alone to be a woman writing, she is saying, I'm going to take my destiny into my own hands. It's not going to be in someone else's hands. It's not going to be in the publisher's hands. It's not going to be in the popular romantic narrative's hands. And personally, as a woman, I that resonates with me. I've had enough of men online speaking for women. This is how it feels, says a man, when a woman has a child. This is how it feels when women go through the menopause. Did you know if a woman over this age, you should be doing this? I understand that women over this age should be feeling like that. And that's respectfully, because obviously there are a lot of professionals out there. But the reason I'm on this platform is because I'm saying, well, it's time to hear it from a woman. Okay? And that's the point. We are reframing, if you like, these narratives. And we're saying, right, well, we're going to put this in the hands of a woman. And we're going to doff our cap to Charlotte Bronte, because she obviously, that literary master, she has walked the walk, and we're taking great inspiration from that. She's taking a stand. So how does this relate to Stoic philosophy? Well, this dichotomy of control, the division or contrast between two things, that's what dichotomy means. They're opposed or entirely different, and they are different. You're in a citadel. Your morals, your virtues, and your inner peace is in opposition to external forces every day. And what we're doing is we are acknowledging that as Stoics, and we're saying, guess what? If this has got to be a citadel, I'm going to have to protect my walls, because there are people coming at me all the time. It's war, right? That's what it is. And we have an understanding that in order to protect my inner citadel, I have to be aware of what my mind's doing. It's a machine. And it's designed to attract comfort, to search for comfort. Okay? And if I allow my machine to be driven by comfortable habits, then I am not protecting my inner citadel or my inner peace. Because external forces represent comfort. It is easier to be attracted to the gossip, the latest news, the latest clickbait, the latest rage bait. That's easy. That's comfort. Even though it's completely bizarre, because even though that is what's creating our discomfort, our brain is saying, this is easy, this is comfortable, I'm attracted to that. They're external forces, we keep them out, we keep our walls high. So to go back to today's question from Celia, who said, messaged me and said, there are so many things that have happened to me, I can't get them out of my mind, they keep going round and round as soon as I wake up. And the theme of the day, this live, which is taking radical responsibility, we are saying, right, well, what are we going to do about this? Because I know for certain this morning I woke up with these same thoughts running around my mind that were running round last night, and I didn't get any sleep. That means I've let my walls down. They're getting in, right? The external forces are getting in. And I've allowed that to happen. I have to take radical responsibility for that. That's only me that's allowing that. So I've said, okay, welcome into my inner peace. You can, chaos, so come on in. Only a fool would do that, surely. But you're only a fool if you are ignorant of the tools that you can use to stop that happening. And that's what Stoicism is about. So this is our life, right? We're in charge now. We take charge. So let's go back to the character of Jane Eyre. Again, these characters are coming from my audiobooks that I read, that are online, that everybody's following. And those stories are powerful. Why are they powerful? Why are they classics? Because they're well-crafted, well-rounded representations of real experience, real lived experience. Now, we don't all have role models in our lives from an older generation that would guide us. These are guiding us, these stories, right? That's their power. So let's go back to Jane Eyre, and I've just been re-editing that to put online today. And I've just been thinking about what she went through. She said, quote, "My future husband was becoming to me my whole world, and more than the world, almost my hope of heaven. He stood between me and every thought of religion, as an eclipse intervenes between man and the broad sun. I could not in those days see God for his creature, of whom I had made an idol." So she's deeply in love with Mr Rochester. But in spite of it all, she finds out he's married, and she has to resolve to take radical responsibility. So Charlotte Bronte has set this protagonist up as somebody who is flying this flag for, even when everything is lost to me, I have no other choice, I have nowhere to go. This is my job. This is the middle of the 1800s. I am destitute if I don't keep this job and adhere to this man's, needs and wants and so on. I'm going to be out on my ear. But in spite of all, she makes the resolution, quote, "I wanted to be weak that I might avoid the awful passage of further suffering I saw laid out for me." She wanted to be weak. This is Charlotte Bronte saying, I understand. The weaker path, the easier path, is to listen to the external forces and allow them to dictate to me. My conscience turned tyrant, she said. In other words, those virtues and morals in her inner citadel turned tyrant. They said, no, you're not going to do that. They held my passion by the throat, and they told me tauntingly I had yet but dipped my dainty foot in the slough. Okay, so I'm don't even think about it, is what she's saying. And I swore that with that arm of iron, Rochester would thrust me down to unsounded depths of agony. She's in love with someone. The easy path is to stay with him. The easy path is to follow her heart. This is what Stoicism teaches us. It says, well, the power is in the pause. Pause. Create a space between emotion and action to gain clarity. And in the story, Jane Eyre goes to bed that night. She has a night of tossing and turning. She wakes up and she says, no, I need to do this. I need to be with this guy. And then her inner conscience says, listen, you silly cow. You're better than that. In not so many words. No, in much prettier prose. So she's realising here to avoid taking action, to avoid taking responsibility is to prolong the agony. She has to do something. And this comes from a place of understanding. As I said before, we look at Charlotte Bronte. She experienced several personal and professional hardships. She lost her mother, most of her siblings. She endured harsh conditions and illness at the clergy daughter's school. She experienced a precarious social and economic position of women where she had to work many jobs as a governess, a teacher, to at the same time struggling with poor health and loneliness because she accepted her duty, her responsibility. She understood that there were certain things that she needed to stay true to, and they were, guess what? Her inner virtues, inner morals and values, which is what Stoics believe. This above all else. This is what I can control. This is what I hold dear. This is important to me. And she supported her family financially after her brother's decline. She had a lot of responsibility. And guess what? She kept writing. Because she said, no matter what, no matter how busy life gets, no matter what I have to do, I need to stay true to my inner drive to create. So she owned her destiny. She took responsibility. She built her existence daily. She was focused. She remained focused, and all her energy flowed into her novels that she's so well known for. And this is why we're talking about them, because what a great example of a female Stoic. And she was influenced by the Stoics. We know that. She had connections to and was inspired by Elizabeth Montagu, who created the Bluestocking group. One of the members, Elizabeth Carter, who translated the works of Epictetus, the first translation ever, let alone by a female. So going back now, we're going to go back to the journals. Going back to today's question, if you've just checked in, Celia asked me what she should do to get her recurring thoughts out of her mind. She's been struggling for so long. She wakes up, she remembers the bad things, and she doesn't want to get up, let alone do anything. And what we're saying is, the theme of this live is radical responsibility. She's in greater agony because she is not taking responsibility, and she is allowing these external forces, these thoughts of reoccurring events It may be one event that's just she's replaying. It's on repeat. I mean, I can't think of... And we all do this to ourselves. It's like living in purgatory. A self-imposed purgatory. Crazy. So radical responsibility, what do we do? Say, yeah, that's happening. Guess what? That's happening. And it doesn't matter how many times you have to say that. It doesn't matter how many times you think the same thought. You have to pick yourself up every single time. And it's hard work. No one said this was going to be easy, but it's less agony than keep thinking it. It's less agony. And that's the point. Our mind has to be trained with daily exercise. Okay, focused exercise. And here we are, cue the journal, right? We're building momentum by tracking our thoughts every day. And it only has to be a 5-minute check-in, okay? Bite-sized check-in every day. But those 5 minutes compound into something transformational. And that's what we're doing here. We're tracking our thoughts. We are understanding and acknowledging, I'm trying to be true to my inner morals, my virtue, okay? And I have to make a choice to do that. It's not going to happen automatically. And guess what? Just when you think you've got it right, you're going to have to start again, just like I did this morning, for goodness sake. But I'd rather do that than be in agony with that same whirlwind of thoughts that just go round and round and round and never cease. Okay, so we open our journal or we make notes on our phone and we say, right, what is my relationship to responsibility? That's the question of today. What is my relationship? We're going to write down 5 things that we have recently not held ourselves accountable for. What have we not held ourselves accountable for? So what are the things that we do that we don't challenge? Okay. So today, for example, this morning, I kept thinking the same thoughts and I wasn't challenging them, even though I knew I should, because I just thought, oh, they'll go away in a minute. Oh, they'll go away. I know they're there, so they're just going to go away. And they didn't go away. They didn't go away. So one of those 5 things would be stop thinking about and then write down the thing you're thinking about. How do I do that? Okay. So question 2 is, what can we do to heighten our own awareness on holding ourselves accountable? So 1, I shouldn't say question, it's not really a question, but 1 would be stop thinking that thought. 2, or the answer to that, I've done it again, would be I'm going to heighten my own awareness on holding myself accountable, or I'm going to hold myself accountable by saying the word stop every time the thought comes up. Stop. Stop thinking that. Stop. You're doing it again. Whatever it is that you need to use to hold yourself accountable, use. So to go back to the journals, we are writing there a list of 5 actions. Now, you might only want to do 1. We all do many things every day that we want to be held accountable for. But if you're feeling, especially if you're feeling a little bit exhausted by life at the moment, stick with 1. Stick with 1 thing. And write down that 1 thing that you just didn't hold yourself accountable for today and it affected your inner peace. And think about it like this. When you have difficult times, when you have arguments, disagreements, struggles, is it clear to you in that instant who is responsible for what? Or do you just keep repeating on loop the argument, the disagreement? Because ideally, when it's happening, if we can nip it in the bud to start with, just like Jane Eyre did, the morning after she realised, I've got to stop this before it even gets a chance to get started. If we nip it in the bud and understand, I'm a little bit confused, there are a lot of emotions and feeling going on, but what is right for me to do? I'm going to distance myself a bit and try and work this out so that I don't compound the problem. I need to be clear of who is responsible for what. In the case of Jane Eyre, he's responsible for the situation he's in, lying to me, trying to manipulate the situation so that he can forget it and embrace his new life. What am I responsible for as Jane? Accepting that he probably did that with the best intention, understanding he loves me, but still realising I'm responsible for my own inner peace and I can never be at peace by marrying this man under these circumstances. Okay, so that's an example from literature. Marcus Aurelius said, does another do me wrong? Let him look to it. He has his own disposition, his own activity. I now have what the universal nature wills me to have, and I do what my nature wills me to do. What does that mean? It means he's accountable for his own actions and I'm accountable for mine. And if I knowingly let this disturb my inner peace, I'm accountable for that. I have to take radical responsibility for that. I do what is mine to do, and the rest I can't let disturb me. And that's what we're talking about here. Preserving our inner peace. So in the first part of that quote, Marcus Aurelius is saying, focus on your responsibility and duty. But also recognize the limits of that control. We acknowledge and fulfill what is in our sphere of influence. But other people are going to do the same. So there has to come an acceptance of that. To them, we're an external force. And it's not in their interest. Now, you may have, a life partner and your internal virtues are aligned. But they are still an external force to some degree. And it is still imperative that you are aware of that and you accept that. And understand that's okay. It's part of being human. Everyone has a dichotomy of control. And the only person you can actually control with their actions, their reactions, and the protection of their inner virtue is yourself. No matter how close you are to anyone. And the same goes for them. And because you love them, you respect that. Jane Eyre respected Rochester. She just could not align with that. Didn't mean she didn't love him. But he was essentially still an external force. And that's what Stoicism is doing. It's encouraging individuals to cultivate this mindset that focuses on the actions that they can undertake, on the actions we can take, by channeling all our energy into what we can control and understanding that in that way we're better equipped to navigate life's challenges. Because the challenges are going to keep happening. The thoughts are going to keep reoccurring. And it doesn't matter how well practiced you are, believe me, they happen all the time. And you have to pick yourself up all the time. And it's tiring, but it's less painful than the agony of just accepting and having this chaos, opening the gates of your citadel and letting the chaos in. That is the real agony. So, to conclude, we're not ignoring the problems. We're just not feeding them more than they deserve. We're not ignoring what's happening. We're not saying we're wrong to have thought those thoughts because something has affected us. What we're saying is we're not going to keep feeding them by thinking them over and over and over and over again. Radical responsibility means taking action to create clarity. We have to filter ourselves. Does this task or do these thoughts drain me or do they grow me? And by using our journals and just tapping in with our notes every day, we're holding ourselves accountable. We're taking responsibility. That's what we're doing. We're removing the noise. We're taking one task at a time, just a very small task, 5-minute task, to align ourselves to our inner virtue. And once we experience that clarity of true focus, we start to crave it. It's a practice, it's a muscle like anything else, the brain, but obviously that little action of journaling every day, once we start doing it, we start to want to do it without realizing it. And it just becomes part of our routine. And it's the same with anything. It's the same with listening to stories. Having that weekly tap in. I am giving myself this time to immerse myself in someone else's world, someone else's experience. I am expanding my viewpoint. Listening to someone else's story and understanding that these continual pattern of thoughts is not the only story. That's why I've said so many times in the past, the power of literature and the fact that it is healing us. Every time we hear ourselves doubting, repeating, questioning, worrying, take a break. Tap into somebody else's story. And that's really my answer to Celia's question is, what am I going to do about this? What you're going to do is take radical responsibility. That's what you're going to do. You're going to understand that no one's saying the external situations, the things you experienced weren't, in some cases, tragic or awful or uncomfortable. But what they're saying is it's your choice on how much attention you give them. And you have to do that by tapping in to your inner citadel and saying, right, how am I going to protect you? I need to use the tools in order to do this. Okay, so again, life's going to throw noise at us. And just because you're strong, it doesn't mean you're without distraction. It's no representative of your strength, whether you're good at batting those recurring thoughts away or not, because they're going to keep coming no matter how strong you are. But the representative of strength is the person that keeps going and keeps batting them away. They've trained themselves to take radical responsibility and focus on what matters in their lives, which gives them clarity under pressure. And when this happens, we start to see these obstacles as opportunities. This is my chance to practice again. And in that way, we can move from emotion to clarity. And that's the key. We are moving from a reactive state to a clear, focused, calm state. We are rejecting the chaos to protect our inner peace.